Hello, and welcome to the BYU Family History Center, the BYU Family History Library webinar series. I'm Marin, and I'll be your host for this webinar. Please make sure that your microphones and web cameras are disabled during the presentation to provide a smooth webinar. Our upcoming webinars are tomorrow on Thursday at 3 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. That'll be with James Tanner. He's giving a presentation entitled The Ultimate Guide to Digital Preservation. I will be updating the rest of the webinars for this month and including August. After James Tanner, the following week after that, we will have a webinar with Sarah Stoddard on DNA. If you would like to access a previous webinar, please visit our webinar index on our website or search on our YouTube channel. All of our webinars are recorded and uploaded the following Monday for your convenience. Currently at this time, we are a little bit far behind on our uploading our recordings, but by the end of this week, we should have those all on there. We also post links to the recordings and the other updates on our Facebook and our Twitter accounts. During the webinar, if you have any technical difficulties, you can use the chat box and I can address your concerns. You're welcome to use the chat box during the webinar for comments and insights. However, all questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. For today's webinar, we're pleased to hear from Joe Price, who will be giving a presentation on family name networks. Joe Price is a professor of economics at Brigham Young University and is the director of the BYU Record Linking Lab. His lab includes about 50 undergraduate research assistants. Dr. Price received a bachelor's degree in economics from Brigham Young University and a PhD in economics from Cornell University. He and his wife, Emily, are the parents of 7 children. And now we'll just turn the time over to Joe. If you'll just wait a moment while we get that set up, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, this is Joe Price. I'm going to talk about a fun way to do family history built around a family name. So my last name is Price, but the example I'm going to be using today is my wife's maiden name, which is Grosnickel. So family name networks can be a really powerful way to create discovery experiences for other people. This is a movie quote from Lars and the Real Girl. It's proven that everyone's favorite word is their own name. I've been really amazed at how people can connect with a surname, and you also notice that people have this natural desire to connect with each other around surnames. So I've often get a question like, are you related to the Prices in Arizona? There's this way in which surnames can connect us to other people around the country. And the other thing is, once we broaden our search to everyone with a particular surname, we can be very effective in the way that we gather new records. You can start to identify photos from yearbooks. You can identify photos from newspapers. You can search through multiple data sets. So let me show you one way you can learn a little bit more about your surname. So if you were to Google Ancestry, whatever last name you want, surname. So if I typed Ancestry Grosnickel surname, it takes me to this page on Ancestry.com that tells me a lot about my family name. And so I can learn about their lifespan. I can learn about what occupation they are. But if you look in the upper right, I can start to see that there's some military records, some immigration records, 3,000 census records, and 25,000 member trees that have Grosnickels on them. So this gives me some places I can look to try to find new information to add to my own family tree. So what a family name network is, it's an approach to family history in which we focus on a particular place or everyone in a particular place that has the same surname. So the example I'm going to use today is I'm going to do everyone that lived in the United States that had the surname Grosnickel. And our goal is to make sure that everyone with that surname is on the family tree, and then we make the best effort to identify the family relationships between them. And you could start really small. If you have a more common name like mine, like Price, I might focus on all the Prices who lived in Bedford County, Virginia in 1900. And I can use that as my starting point to make sure that all those Prices are on the family tree, because many of them are my relatives. So let me just tell you a little bit about what we did as a family. My wife's maiden name is Grosnickel. There's only 465 Grosnickels in the 1900 census. We worked together as a family, and now every single one of those Grosnickels is on the family tree. And we were able to connect them to each other and to other people on the tree. And now my kids know that they're related to almost every single Grosnickel in the 1900 census. So let me teach you how to do the same process, because this could be something you could try with your family or try with other people that share your last name. Pick a record collection and a surname. So in the example I'm going to use, so in this example that we did as a family, we chose the 1900 US Census, and we chose Grossnickel. Now, Grossnickel is a pretty rare name, so we're able to do it for the whole country. But if you have a more common surname, you can narrow down by birthplace, event place, or birth year. And if you look on the picture here on the right, you can see that you could search by birth, residence, or other events. And then you can also decide if you want to use the exact spelling or not. In this case, you can see next to the word Grossnickel, there's a box. If I click that box, it'll only find people whose surname is exactly spelled that way. If you leave the box unclicked, you'll get other surnames that are pretty close. So step one is once you've made those decisions, then just find a person to start with. And when you search for a record collection, and I'll do a demo in a second, you'll get, so in this case, in this original, we had 465 results. And what you do is you want to start with someone who's not already on the tree. So in the example you see here of Mary and Rachel Price, you're going to look for the pedigree icon. And so in this case, Mary is on the tree, but Rachel is not. So I'm going to start with Rachel. And Rachel's part of a family. She's living with her dad, Edward, her mother, Leona, and she has some siblings and other people living with her. So that's step one. Just pick a person to start with. Step two, add the person to the tree. Now, they might already be on the tree, and we're going to find that out really soon. But the way you add someone to the tree is you go to a person page of anyone. You click the button at the top that says Recents. Then at the bottom of that drop-down menu, click Add Unconnected Person. And then you use the information from the census record to fill in what you know about this person. So you can see in this lower right picture, Rachel Price, female, deceased, born March 1899 in Pennsylvania. That's the information I put in, and then I hit next. If a good match already exists, it'll pop up. It'll say, we think we found the person you're looking for. If so, click View Person, and then you can attach the source to them. If not, click Create New Person. Okay, so we're either going to find the person on the tree, or if they're not on the tree, we're going to create a new person. And then step three is we're going to attach the census record. The way you do this is you click the FamilySearch button on the right of your screen under Search Records. You find the 1900 census record that you were looking at before. It's usually right at the top. And then you're going to use Source Linker to attach the record, add other family members, resolve any duplicates, and put the family back together into a single unit. So this single person that we started by adding to the tree, they're now part of a family unit. And what's nice about adding the other family members is that in many cases, we'll find that some of the other family members are already on the tree, and that will mean that we've connected our person into the bigger tree. So this is an example of what I saw when I did Rachel Price. So when I went to attach the census to her, you can see she's the person right here in the middle. And so normally I'd hit add and attach. So now I've attached the census to this new person I created. But notice that Edward and Leona are both in green, which means that they're already on the family tree. So what I would do in this situation is I would copy Rachel's PID, the GS66HWQ. I'd go up to the button for her dad that says detach, and I'd click on his PID. That'll take me to his person profile. And then I can add Rachel in as one of his children. So in Rachel's case, her parents are already on the family tree, which means that we've already connected up to the family tree, and we can go and see if her grandparents are on there and other siblings. If nobody in the family is on the tree, then what we'll do is just start to attach additional sources and use these sources to branch out by connecting in additional people. I would focus particularly on the parents of the father and the spouse and children of the sons, because these will be people that have the same last name as you. And so this will help you start to build out your family name network. And you'll just continue this process until you connect to someone who's on the tree. And once you connect to someone that's on the tree, you can click View My Relationship and see how they're connected to you. And this is the experience we had as a family, is as we added all the Grossnickels to the tree and connected them to each other and to the bigger tree, my kids were able to click View My Relationship and discovered that they were related to almost all of the Grossnickels that are on the tree. And then the last step is just once you feel comfortable with the process, invite others to help you with the project, pick a data collection, split up the work. If you type in the same search terms as each other, you can split the work by page number. This is something great to do with your own family members, including your extended family. And it might even be something you could try at a family reunion this summer, or at least introduce the idea that, hey, let's all work on this particular surname. And then you can start to think of other people that you can invite to help. There might be people in your community that have your same surname, or you can reach out to people that you've interacted with through FamilySearch as you've worked on some of the same people. So what I'm going to do now is a demo. And Maren, are we okay to go live to the internet? But if you're watching this video after the fact, try it out yourself. And this is a link to our Facebook page. And you're welcome to post any comments that you have or any questions, and we'll respond to those. Okay, so I'm going to sign in. Okay, so the first step we're going to do is we're going to hit search. And I'll try to do this a little slower. I know I talk pretty fast. So I'm going to hit search records. And this is going to take me into the search records page. Now, if you wanted to search for your last name across any record collection, you could type it right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus in on one record collection. So I'm going to type in United States Census, and then I'm going to put in 1900. I'm going to focus on this. This is my favorite census record. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in gross nickel. And again, if I wanted it to be exactly gross nickel, I could click this box. If I'm just going to leave it open for now. And I'm going to hit search. And so notice now that there's the 465 gross nickels. And if you look down this view, there's pedigrees for all of these. So in this case, I've actually found every single gross nickel is connected to the tree. And if you clicked other pages, you can see that's the case. Now, the nice thing is I can also click on any one of these pedigrees and take a look at that person. So I just kind of grabbed a random gross nickel right here, and I'm going to hit view my relationship. And notice it's going to show how we're connected. So my wife is a gross nickel, and this shows us how we're connected to that. And we found that actually almost every single gross nickel came through a pair of brothers who moved to Maryland in the 1700s. So let's just, just for a demo purpose, I'm going to pick a different last name. And actually, I'll ask Maren. Maren, I forget, what's your last name?
Someone posted in the
Oh, sure, yeah. N-O-L-L-S, so Knowles. Okay, perfect. So let's do that. Thanks for sending that in. It's always nice to do a demo. So there's actually 15,000 Knowles, which is fine. Means there's a lot of work to do. And if you wanted to, you could type in a residence place. So if we wanted to focus on the Knowles that were living in Utah or Kentucky or Michigan, we could do that. We could also focus on people that were born in a particular place. And if we want, we could even focus on children. So one thing I sometimes will do is I'll start by looking at children because they tend to be part of a nuclear family. So I'm just going to put in my birth year, 1890 to 1895. So these will be kind of 5 to 10-year-olds in there. So that'll help me just narrow it down to give me a place that's a little more reasonable to start. Now notice here that as we look across the view button, we can see that Riley's on the tree, Bessie's on the tree, Jesse Knowles is not. Now, Jesse's one I would not start with because he's living with a mother with a different last name. So I'd probably start with a family that's a little easier to work with. So you can see here, Bessie, she's part of a family where her dad's James and her mother's Sarah. So let's do Bessie. So we're going to click on Bessie. And we can hit open in a new window. And this will allow us to see the things about Bessie. So here we have Bessie Knowles. She was born January 1892 in Alabama. And then this is her family. So she's part of a pretty big family. So what we're going to do now is just open up a new window in FamilySearch. We're going to go to the person page for anyone. The person page just opens up this ability to open up recents. And then we're going to hit add unconnected person. And then we just take the information from here. Just going to copy this. So here's Bessie Knowles. We're going to hit female, deceased. And then she was born January 1892 in Alabama. And so at this point, it says no match found. In many cases, it'll pop up a possible match. You'll look at it, you'll be able to know it's right. And in this case, she does not appear that she's on the trees. So we're going to hit create person, or at least the kind of search algorithm didn't flag her as being on the tree. So now we come under search records and we hit FamilySearch. And normally Bessie's going to show up as the first record. So here, now let's just be careful here because actually that first record's not our Bessie. Our Bessie's the second one. So we're going to hit Bessie and we're going to hit review and attach record. And so now at this point, it's going to drop me into Source Linker. And so I'm going to attach this record to Bessie. And then I'm going to add in her other family members. Now, JES is an abbreviation for James. So I'll make that change. And then the other thing I'll do is when I add her mother, I'm going to take her mother's surname off because her maiden name was probably something different. And actually, these big families are fantastic to work with because they give you a lot more opportunities to crash into the tree. Except actually, Alabama is one of the states that has kind of a lower hit rate. So we'll try just one other example from another state. But this is a case now where I can start to add in this whole family unit to the tree. And then what I'll do at this point is, and I probably won't show this whole step, but what I would do is I'd start to attach other sources to each of these people. I'd find their spouses. I'd find the parents of James. I'd find the spouses and children of each of the sons, because they're going to continue to be nulls. And I'd probably find them in the 1910 census, 1920 census, and so on. But you can see just with this one record, I was able to add a very large family to the tree. So now this is a bunch of new nulls that are going to be on the tree for the first time. But as I attach other records, I might find that there was a duplicate. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, I'll come back to this. This will show up in my recents. So let me just do one more example. But just to give you an idea what I would do next, I would then go to maybe the father. I'd see if any record hints come up. So notice that actually we're not getting any record hints. We could then search for records. I'd probably go look for them on Ancestry, see if I could find some other records for them and try to branch out until I connect this family to the tree. Let's just do one other small example. Oh, we'll come back here. So we're going to come back to nulls, and I'm actually going to, let's look for one that's living in Utah. Okay, so here we have, and this is actually interesting. Okay, that was a little weird. I'm not sure why. Oh, I guess it's thinking those surnames are similar, but it's looking like, let's just broaden out our birth year then. So here we have some, so it looks like there's not a lot of nulls that were living in Utah. So let me just change to a different state and just do Michigan. Okay, so here we have Henry Knowles, but now as we scroll down, we can see Kitty is on the tree, Alice is on the tree, and so I could maybe add Henry to the tree. But again, what you want to do is, and notice now we're down to about 389, so that's something manageable that you could do as a family. So just in terms of the experience you can have, what I've enjoyed about this is I feel that by working on everyone that has a particular surname, I can get really good at understanding who each of the different people are with that surname. I start to tell the Davids apart, the Johns apart, and you really come to know the family and how they're all connected to each other. Okay, so I'm gonna jump back to the slides. Though actually, before I jump back to the slides, let me do one last little demo, which is if you type in the URL bit.ly/RLL-custom, we've created a new little app that helps you find record hints for people with your surname. So I'm just going to type in Price, and notice that as I start to type my name, it pulls up possible last names that I could work on. And so I'm going to do Price and hit Submit. And it's going to find some record hints that I can do for people with my surname. So in this case, I'm just going to hit link 1, and it's going to drop me right into SourceLinker. And if you haven't worked with SourceLinker before, it's just something that I think once you get a little bit of practice with it, it'll feel pretty comfortable. But you can always hit details to see more information about this. So you can see that the birth month lines up. You can see that Mary lines up well too. You can see that Rachel and Sarah were already attached. So in this case, what's left for me to do is just to attach these other census records to the other family members. So I would attach those two. But this is a way then to start with record hints that are already on the family tree and get those censuses attached. And that'll start to narrow down the number of census records that are left to do. And then all you do is you come back to this page and you click 1, which means that you completed it. If you're not sure what to do, just put a 0.5. And if it doesn't look like a match, put a 0. So let me just do one more example here. Again, I just click the link. It drops me right into SourceLinker. And so in this case, you can see that John is already attached. William is already attached. And then we have these other family members that aren't lining up. So this is actually an interesting case where actually now I'm not sure if whoever did that first one was right. The thing that's kind of tripping me up a little bit is Gordy, though this could still be right. So in this case, I'd probably spend some more time, do some research. And so for right now, I'm just going to leave that one blank and come back to it. But let's try one more link. And again, with these are just record hints that you can try. And if they don't work well, you can just leave them there for other people to work on. But in case this is another one that's pretty easy, I'm just going to attach these census records to this family. And again, if you hit details, you can kind of see how the things line up. Let's just do one more. I'm going to hit link 4. And so notice here we have Irma, who's already linked because she's on the tree with her husband. And so in this case, if this record is for Irma, I've just found her parents and 4 of her siblings. So this is one where I'd probably do a little bit more research, maybe find a marriage record for Irma to see if her parents were Joshua and Mary. But if that's the case, then I would be able to add 6 new Prices to the family tree. And I can always then check to see how they're related to me. Okay, so again, the URL for this will be in the slides, and so we'll jump back to the slides now. Okay, so again, if you, as you try that out yourself, feel free to, we'll post any comments on our Facebook page and we'll answer those and help you out. Again, we're just highlighting this as one new additional way to do family history, which is to focus on the people that have your same surname. So now I just want to show you some cool things that we've been able to do with surnames. So this is that app that I just showed you. Which is bit.ly/RLL_custom. And it allows you to look for record hints for people with a surname that you want to work on. And I had a fantastic experience. One of my family names is Averett. I was able to add some Averetts to the tree by using these record hints. I hit view my relationship and it turns out that they were my 4th cousins. And so that was a really neat experience to be working on records for Averetts and realize that they were so closely related to myself. And again, this is how that experience looks. You'll be given 5 links to start with. It'll drop you right into SourceLinker, and then you'll just develop your experience using SourceLinker. So in this image you see in the upper right, that's a case where there's 2 new people we need to add to the tree. In the image you see in the lower right, May and James need to be attached, and then the father, James, it looks like he has a duplicate on the tree. So you could actually then merge those duplicates together and make the tree a cleaner place. Now, the thing that I've really loved about focusing on one surname is it's allowed me to really deep dive into the records that are available just for that surname. So for example, on Ancestry, there's about 2,700 yearbook entries for people with the last name Grossnickel. So I can actually go to those yearbooks, find photos of a Grossnickel, find that Grossnickel on the family tree, and put that photo up for someone else to find. I can also look through newspaper entries about Grossnickels. And the nice thing is, any Grossnickel I find, I can draw information from the newspaper article. Maybe there's a photograph or a life event, and I can add that information to the family tree. The analogy I like to use is that normally what we're doing is we're searching for a particular person and we're looking in lots of haystacks for that person. I think a much more effective use of our time is to focus on a haystack, find all the needles that anyone might want to care about, put those needles on the tree for other people to find. It's very similar to the way we do indexing. We don't do indexing just for our own family. We do indexing for a whole batch of records that are going to help other people. And it is actually then amazing that once you start to learn a lot about a particular surname, you might discover things that you would have never known. So for example, this lower right picture is a church in Maryland called the Grossnickel Church of the Brethren. The Grossnickels first arrived in Maryland, and there is a lot of Grossnickels in Maryland. They even have their own church. And I'm excited to go visit this church one day and show them how we're cousins with everyone. We also have some tools in the record linking lab that allow you to visualize the name network. John Weymouth, someone that we've worked with, has been a great supporter of our lab. And so we actually added every single Weymouth to the tree. And we can start to visualize how all those Weymouths are connected to each other. So these are 2 networks of Weymouths that show you how different people with the last name Weymouth are connected to each other. And it's actually part of this broader name network. This is the full name network that you can see a whole bunch of different connections between the different Weymouths. And then what we did is we dropped each of these unique networks as a single row in a spreadsheet. So let me show you that spreadsheet. So there was one network that had 7,404 people in it, Weymouths in it. And then there was another network that had 308, another network that had 296, another that had 214. So these started out as networks that weren't connected to each other, at least through Weymouths. They're likely connected to each other through other people because the family tree is all connected to each other. But you can see then in this result column that 308 network, we were not able to connect it to other networks, but many of the other networks we were able to connect to each other. And each time we connected two networks to each other, the Y-mouth network started to expand and include more and more people. And these were the bigger networks, but it was also true for the smaller networks. So all of these little two-person networks of Y-mouths, we were able to connect almost all of the small networks up into the bigger one. And so of the 134 distinct networks, we were able to directly connect 87 of them together. So why does this matter? As you connect these networks together, you're going to tighten the family tree. You're going to identify duplicates that you can merge, and you're going to break through dead ends. This also increases our ability to connect with other people. When you use the Find a Person app on your phone, this is something I love to do. I just ask someone, I say, tell me a little bit about your grandfather. I find them on the phone, and then I hit view my relationship, and within about 1 minute, I can see how I'm related to another person. Joseph Price recently did an Eagle project in which he identified about 400 people from his US history textbook that are on the tree, and you can use this link to go and discover how you're related to them. Matt Mishbach has created some really cool apps that let you see how you're related to people that were on the Mayflower, or you can even see how you're related to Kevin Bacon, which is kind of a fun game that kids like to play with 7 degrees of separation. But these are just ways that once you've connected people together on the tree, you can have discovery experiences and see how you're connected to each other. Another thing we're trying to do is create indexing experiences that are based on a surname. So there's a lot of record collections that are image only. It means they haven't been indexed. There's no way really to search through them. But what we're hoping to do is, instead of trying to index the whole record, we're just going to index the surname. So then you'd be able to search for people with your surname in that record. Now, to do this, we need to have automated ways of indexing surnames. So we've developed a customized mobile app that focuses on surnames, and you can try it out yourself. The link is bit.ly/RLL_index. But what it does is it takes the image, the handwriting, and the machine tries to figure out which surname it thinks it is, and then your job is just to click the one that you think is correct. And we're working on a customized version of this in which it will show you those surnames that it thinks is your own. And so you could become an expert at what Gross-Nickel looks like across any record, any place. So just as a final note, this approach is just a way to help other people who have the same surname as you. Now, you might not be related to each other, but at the very least, you're going to create discovery experiences for other people, many of whom are going to be your family members. It also provides an efficient way to ensure that everyone is on the tree, and to tighten the connections between people and break through dead ends. I found that the more I learned about each of the David Gross-Nickels that are on the tree, I could start to tell them apart. And so even though it might be hard to tell which record goes with which David, as I got to know each of them better, I was able to tell which David in the record matched to which David on the tree. It also provides a fantastic way to upload new content to the family trees that others would be excited to find. So as you search for interesting record collections with the last name Gross-Nickel, you might find some photos, you might find some high school yearbook entries or other things that you would love to know about your own family. And so you can then there'll be a place for you to put that content on the family tree. And then, we're developing new tools that will help us better visualize family network connections and access new records for our family members. And so with that, I'll stop. I've left my information here you can reach me by email, or you can visit our Facebook page and ask us any questions.
It looks like someone asked, do we have time to do Dole beer?
Okay.
Another name.
Yeah, we could do a quick demo. I think it's helpful to see it in a couple different ways, so we could definitely do that. So let me actually switch then. I'll just do it myself. I'll just switch over here to FamilySearch. And let me just start it all from scratch. So I'm going to close all of that. And so the first step is just to type familysearch.org. Okay, and then sign in. Okay, and so again, the first step is just to decide which record collection you want to do. I would always suggest the 1900 census if you don't have a strong preference otherwise, but I know some people love to do find a grave, or billion graves, marriage collections, or other things. So again, I hit search, records. I come over here, I'm gonna do United, oops. Okay, I'm gonna type in United States Census. Okay, so this is gonna take me to the search page for that record collection. And then Maren, do you wanna spell that last name?
Dolbeer.
Okay. And actually, let me use this last name to illustrate something kind of fun. So let's see how many Dolbeers there are on the tree. So there's 630. Now, one thing is you can learn a little bit about how often your last name is misspelled by, now I'm going to check for how many are exactly that name. And you see it drops to 56. Okay, so there's only 56 people who spell their surname in the 1900 census exactly that way. And so you could decide maybe to start with those. Now, actually, this is an interesting case. So whoever submitted this name has actually been doing a lot of work. And you can see actually that the pedigree icons just fill down the page. And so there's only a few people with exactly the last name Dolbeer that haven't been done. And actually, one of them is a patient, which is, those are harder ones to do because you don't see them as part of a family. But we could pick Catherine right here. Now, Catherine's also going to be a hard one to do. Because that's not going to be her maiden name. So what I might do is look at one of her children. I'd start by putting her child on the tree. And so we can do that here really quick. And so again, this is probably the hard part that you probably haven't seen before. So hit person. This is going to take you into a person page. And then the trick is to hit recents and then add unconnected person right here at the bottom of the drop-down menu. And so again, then I come over here and I'll grab this information. So here's Ella Dolbeer. Okay, and she's female. And the other nice thing about the 1900 census is that everyone is deceased. Okay, so she was born in 1877. I'll drop that right in there. And then she was born in New York. And it's quite possible when we hit this that there might be so it says no match found. Okay, so we'll create a person. I was kind of hoping a match would be found so I could show you what that looks like. But again, then we're going to, from this person page, we come under search records, we hit FamilySearch. And again, that first record that comes up usually is the one we're looking for. And so then we hit review and attach. And now we're going to put this family back together on the tree. So now here we have Ella is now attached. We're going to add the mother, take off her surname. And then we're going to add in the siblings. Okay, and now what I'll leave for you to try is, now at this point we would go and we'd find other records for Ella. We'd attach those records and see if we can crash her into the tree. So one thing we might want to do is find her father's name. And we can kind of extend from there. So one thing I like to do is check on Ancestry. I think Ancestry has a really good way of doing fuzzy matching where the names aren't spelled exactly right. And so you can see here, it's that record that I was looking at. And so once I'm here, you can see that actually someone thinks that actually it was spelled differently. You can see that here's an Ella in the 1880 census. And so if I go look at that, it looks like this is a really good match. And so in that case, I would be able to find her father's name and I could add her father to the tree. And as I add her father, I might discover that he's already on the tree. The other thing that I like to do is when I'm on this page, I'll hit this button that says find others who are researching Ella in public member trees. And sometimes I'll find Ella on a public member tree. So in this case, I didn't, but a lot of times I will, and I can use that to give me some hints about other information about her.
So our next webinar will be with James Tanner on Thursday at 3 p.m. That'll be on the Ultimate Digital Preservation Guide. The following week, we'll be having a webinar with Sarah Stoddard on DNA. And if you have any comments or questions, you can email me at FHL_webinars@byu.edu. I will post the two URLs that Joe mentioned today, along with the recording of this webinar next week. So you can see that on our YouTube channel or on our website or on our Facebook. Thank you so much, and we hope that you have a wonderful weekend.